So finally, Vigilantes, we got that Diggle-centric-esque episode with Spartan being the title, but also we got a big Emiko Queen moment towards the end of this episode, which definitely makes things very interesting for the final few episodes of this season. So let's break down Arrow Season 7, Episode 19, titled Spartan. What is up, Vigilantes? Welcome to a brand new review for Arrow Season 7, Episode 19, Spartan. Now, this was a cool episode. I felt like when I was watching it, though, I don't know why, and I just wanted to get this off my chest straight away. I just expected a bit more. I don't know, maybe flashbacks and stuff like that in the episode, especially when Diggle was dropping things about, the kind of relentless training or whatever he said that General Stewart put him and Andy through when they were younger. So I felt like this episode, considering it was called Spartan, could have done a lot more with Diggle. He seemed to share a lot of his scenes with a lot of the other characters, which also explored his origin, if you will, like I guess with General Stewart and stuff. Other than that, don't get me wrong, they definitely explored Spartan a lot more with his history and joining the military, his mother, his father and stuff. But as I said, not every single exploration into that had to be to do with the present day scenes. But maybe, I don't know, if going back and filming flashbacks, hiring kid actors and everything like that was too much around the time to organize or something. Or maybe they just didn't feel like they needed to do it. I don't know. But either way, in true Arrow fashion, guys, I still really enjoyed this episode. So, right at the beginning, we had John and Oliver looking for Emiko. But as a result, they landed in a load of combat. I think it was with the guy called Virgil. It was the Ninth Circle, which involved that Argus drive, which was the best lead to finding Emiko. But the action in this scene was very, very good. There was this one moment where, I know like they twist the arms all the time, but that one moment where Diggle literally just, yanked the guy's arm up, I thought, oh man, I swear like we don't always get, I don't know, on-screen snaps as brutal as that. And right off the bat as well, I think they closed that scene with like Oliver, wants to drop the news on Emiko about Dante. And I just thought, oh man, well, this isn't going to go the way you think. Because it's very obvious he was equipping this information he learned actually in the previous episode in terms of how this will just bring the tower collapsing down on the Ninth Circle's operations with bringing Emiko into the fold. And I just knew it was just too predictable, right? Oliver tells Emiko about Dante, oh, she'll come crying back, running into his arms. No, definitely not going to be as good as that. So I was looking forward to that in this episode, and we got a big part of that right at the end, but we'll get to that. But this episode was mainly focusing around General Stewart and Diggle's relationship. Now, from the synopsis, we knew that they didn't have the greatest history, and there was this kind of tension between them. And right off the bat, we learned that General Stewart is Diggle's stepfather. Now, this made everything a lot more interesting, and the way they wrote him as well kind of depicted him to the audience that he was a bit of like a dislikable guy in terms of, oh, you're on your way to the Pentagon, your path, went directly to the Pentagon, but look at you now, and everything like that. It was definitely intended to trigger Diggle and for the audience to think, oh, this guy's a douchebag, but really, that's what made the story very good episode, because it kind of comes full circle with the revelations that happen with that mission. That conversation between General Stewart and Diggle towards the end was very, very feelsy, and throughout the episode building up to that, I felt like they broke piece by piece down very nicely. So we've been talking about for the longest time now, oh wow, what if the whole reason everyone has to go on the run and the Vigilantes and everything like that happens is because Emiko releases the Archer program in such a way that it screws everything up, and then Vigilantes are disregarded from society, like period, forever. But that all kind of started this episode, I feel, with, the Ninth Circle just busting in Oliver and Felicity's apartment and stealing Archer, and that was Virgil, I believe, from the beginning fight scene. And that's when Elena, I think is how you say her name, Elena was talking about how Dr. Magnus wanted to buy the Archer program, and there was very heavy emphasis on the fact that Archer, if in the wrong hands, could go absolutely disastrous. And I feel like this is the kind of typical writing of the CW shows or predictability that you can really kind of tell. I'm not saying what these shows are flat out predictable in terms of, oh, I know what's going to happen to a T, nobody's 100% on. I just feel like when you're picking up things like this in the episode, oh, heavy emphasis on what if it gets in the wrong hands, and it gets in the wrong hands, you kind of know where things are going. I don't think I'm firing shots here into the episode. I'm just saying when moments like this happen, I was just waiting for another thing to happen on the clock, and it kind of did later on in the episode, and it will probably explore even further as well, especially with that look that Elena gave the USB stick towards the end. But as I said, we'll get to that when we get to that. So of course, at some point in this episode, with the clear tension between General Stewart and Diggle, Oliver or Team Arrow at some point will have to like poke their nose in it and think, look, John, something's up with you. And we got the kind of explanation that I've briefly talked about in this video already from Diggle about General Stewart and how he hasn't really seen him since he actually left home and joined the army. And back then, he wasn't the general that he's known as today. He was actually a lieutenant. But the whole awkward thing happened is where this operation went down and John's father in Diggle's mind got left behind. General Stewart was like, I think, the only guy to come out of it. And even after that, 6 months later, he was around their freaking house at a dinner table, and you can only imagine as a kid how that would make you feel. So I really empathized with John freaking Diggle in this episode. But that's where John also said that he gave him and Andy a lot of tough love through putting them through some recon training. How long could they freaking survive the cold for once? That's pretty hard. So it would, as I said, it would have been pretty cool to explore that. But with everything else they did in this episode, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe including a flashback, even though they would only probably keep it to like 22 seconds like they have done before. Maybe that would have been cool. Maybe they could have included that somehow. But I guess it wasn't needed for what they wanted to do this episode. So I do understand. But this is where the reconciliation kind of started happening in the episode, or the opportunity for reconciliation happened, and that's where we saw from the trailer that Diggle gets a freaking tranq dart in the net, and so does General Stewart, and they get captured. Now I have to admit, they were captured by Dante. I thought there'd be more from this scene. I don't know why. I think we were all just thinking, oh, is this going to be like Adrian Chase capturing Oliver Queen back in season 5? And I wasn't expecting something as dramatic as that. But I guess I just expected more from this scene. I mean, it was still kind of cool, like they were getting tortured, and then the general gave up the numbers to save Diggle, and then they got out through a freaking shoelace, soaring through a zip wire. Sorry, but I don't believe that. Prove me wrong, please. Link me an article or something. But a shoelace at the right angle with like enough like going at it, it would just cut through the zip wire. I don't know, but I found that funny. I mean, I could be wrong. What do I know? I'm not a military general. In between this, we got the whole stuff between Felicity and Elena again, just in terms of how Felicity loves Team Arrow, but it's just not enough, and that's what Archer was for, like her way of leaving a bigger legacy on the world. And I get that, like Overwatch does serve a big purpose in Team Arrow, but it's not like she's gonna have a statue of her like the Black Canary. She's not out there in the streets all the time. So what could Felicity do? And I really like this for a character. It makes complete sense. She would want to have more significance and meaning through the Archer program, and that's what that was for. And yet again, at this moment, it was really heavily emphasized that the point of making the Archer program as well is to make sure it's used as intended. But we'll revisit this in a little bit. This is where Oliver kind of gets involved with Felicity through finding out the truth behind this General Stewart guy, and he found out that he's actually like a really, really stand-up kind of guy, and there's nothing wrong with him whatsoever. So this whole time, Diggle believed that his father died because no man gets left behind, but General Stewart did that, got out the freaking place and seemed to be freaking dandy, and then came around their house for freaking dinner with their mum. No, it wasn't like that. It turns out that John's father died because he was negligent, and even as a result of his actions caused 2 other fellow military guys to die as well. And it was actually because of General Stewart that anyone got out of there alive, or that mission was a success actually after all. And that was a really nice way of twisting this story. I mean, albeit it's not a revelationary breakthrough, but it's still like, oh, this guy isn't what John thought he was, and I wonder where this can go. And in terms of Green Lantern stuff, because I haven't mentioned it up until now, and maybe somebody's already commented it, there wasn't like a whole bunch of stuff. Maybe I was expecting more in that area as well. I probably should have said that in the intro. I wasn't expecting mind-breaking stuff, but we made a video about this episode weeks and weeks and weeks ago where like the title got leaked or something, and with General Stewart being a very obvious connection to the Green kind of Lantern name, and then John Diggle, but like, now people are obviously like poking in the fact that he's the stepfather, but you could argue on like a different multiverse where, for example, we had the Crisis on Earth X Barry Allen talking, saying, John, where's your ring? Because technically, if things would have gone differently in this universe, John Diggle could have taken General Stewart's name after maybe having a really good relationship growing up or something like that. But, this stuff could still happen technically in this universe. I don't really know. You're going to have to fill in your own blanks there. But other than that, I didn't spot any mind-blowingly like, oh my god, Green Lantern Easter eggs or anything like that. So let me know down in the comments below if you did. It would be fun to read them. At this point in the episode, I was like, oh yeah, come to think of it, Emiko, where have you been? I think this was her first moment on the screen. Before that, obviously, we saw quite a bit of the Ninth Circle. But this is where Emiko and Dante found that weapon. They had the Archer program at this point. Team Arrow arrived. They plant the boosters to help kind of allow Felicity regain some kind of access to the Archer program. We had General Stewart helping over the comms, and he proved very, very useful because Diggle at that moment had to place his trust in the General, and that was only after learning the truth about him. But at this moment as well, guys, Felicity decided to run a program that destroyed Archer, or destroys Archer, and it was a good decision to make. It was a hard decision because that's everything you've worked on. Sure, she can make it again, but it's like a heck of a lot of effort programming. I couldn't even fathom doing that. Aside from that, guys, of course, we had Oliver and Emiko facing off, and then we had those two arrows split together. I found that cool, but it didn't feel as cool this time, only because I feel like we've seen that exact same thing before. Maybe they threw the arrows and they did the same thing. I'm not trying to call it cool. I'm just saying if they're just going to pull out the same CGI thing with like a Robin Hood arrow split like that, it's not going to feel as, the novelty is worn off a little bit. It would be cool if they did something else epic between them, which I'm sure they've got planned up, but still cool, don't worry. But either way, this moment was very important because finally he tells Emiko about Dante killing his mother. Now, also, I didn't know how I felt about Emiko having the upper hand in the fight, because I felt like whenever Oliver's faced her before, like he's completely mopped the floor with her. But maybe Oliver wasn't going as hard on her at this time because he obviously doesn't want to kill her. But it did seem like she got quite a few punches in and tripped him up, and he was yelling out in pain a few times. So this leads to that nice conversation with Diggle walking out the General of the Arrow Cave. They basically reconcile, like he says, every kid deserves to believe that their father was a hero, and that is when this is beautiful writing. It makes me feel teary up even talking about it now, remembering that scene. That's where Diggle says, if I'm a hero, it's all because of you, sir. And that was just like, what a lovely moment for Diggle and his stepfather. But I do want to quickly move on to the Archer program and what's happening with it, quite simply because of that scene with Elena and Felicity. So Elena was proposing about rebuilding Archer because she had actually copied the root code. But Felicity was like, to be fair, I don't think I will, because, restarting Archer, it could fall into the wrong hands. But that moment where she looked at the freaking USB that had Archer's root code on it, 100% is foreshadowing that, maybe she's going to try and do something with it now, because she likes the offer. She kept going back to the offer that Dr. Magnus or whatever made. So this could be actually how Archer will get out of hand, because she might make an alternative version of it. Felicity might discover this in a few episodes' time, might understand the source code, be a modified Elena version of it, and yeah, this could be how everything goes wrong with Archer. So guys, right towards the end of the episode now, Emiko kills Dante. Now, there's a very obvious reasoning as to why he did it, or why she's killing him. She wants her revenge and vengeance for her mother, and ultimately, this isn't going to turn the tide. Emiko is still very obviously going to remain the leader of the Ninth Circle for the time being, but I wrote down in my notes here, now Emiko is going to be a mess. She's killed the guy who's guided her this whole time. She's probably conflicted, knowing in her heart of hearts that she should just go over to Team Arrow, but it's almost like this stubborn, weird thing she's got wrapped up in, that she's probably out of spite or whatever going to stay with the Ninth Circle. But as a result, she's going to keep bouncing and flicking with such conflict. Reminds me of Anakin Skywalker conflict. Do I save Padme, or do I do this? And he's constantly crushing him and with turmoil inside. Weird comparison, I know, but I feel like Emiko's going to emulate that on screen as well, and it's just going to be a very emotional Oliver versus Emiko, and the conversations or the few lines that they're going to say to each other are going to be so powerful, and it's going to end up in this big freaking paint bomb of splat of mess, because people are now thinking, okay, she's the main villain, and to be honest, I think she low-key is meant to be. I think this season, first of all, and I've been saying it the whole time, there is no true defining big villain like Zoom or Savitar from The Flash or something like that, or I should give you an Arrow example, like Malcolm Merlin or Deathstroke of season 2 and stuff like that. This is more like bouncing, and it's been like a cool like consistency of twists, and like who is this, who is that, what's going on with this. And Emiko being the final product, I would say, maybe not the big villain, but the final product of like who Team Arrow needs to face. I would label it as that. But it's not like there's going to be an even bigger overarching villain popping out the woodwork from episode 19 onwards. It's 100% Emiko. It's the last big confrontation for Team Arrow. But would you call her the big overarching villain? You could. But like, it's not, I don't think it's intended to be looked at that way. Other than that, guys, I totally forgot that I had to get through the flash forward scenes. I always leave them till last anyway, but that consisted of Mia and Connor Hawke going out to find a power unit for that Galaxy 1 helmet. And this is where we got all kind of revelations from Connor Hawke. For example, how his brother, JJ, is the leader of the Deathstroke gang, which is freaking crazy. Now he explains how like this all kind of happened because he grew up, or JJ should I say, grew up hating their parents because of the expectations they put on them. Now Connor Hawke kind of does sympathize with that, because I feel like he spoke about that in the past as well, but he just didn't kind of go along the route that JJ did, to the point where he's now the leader of the Deathstroke gang or something. By the way, the episode ended on like a note with the flash forwards in terms of how the helmet's power came on, and it's now a satellite to a much larger network, and it's no longer a surveillance program. It's been weaponized to the point where it's like an AI powered sixth sense, I think Felicity made it sound out to be. And you know, combining that in with tech enhanced armor, it's just this big one, unstoppable army. She made a point about how one soldier wiped out half the Canaries that Dinah's leading. Imagine what tens and tens of soldiers are going to do, and that's what we got teased with at the end of the episode. So, you know, the flash forwards were alright, but there wasn't like a massive like focus on them this episode. It was just kind of expanding that storyline from what we saw last time. But other than that, guys, I really enjoyed this episode. It was you know, a good standard of Arrow episode, if you will. I think I'm really happy where things are at for the final episodes of this season. But let me know your thoughts on the episode down below, guys. Check out the links in the description as well to my Discord server, to my Patreon, to everything like that. Subscribe if you're brand new for more Arrow videos just like this. But as always, Vigilantes, hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.